I'm Jesse Wilson, and I'm a part of YWAM, staffing the SBS school, and I've been with YWAM for about 3 years now. And I just wanted to share with you just how radically God has changed my life. Um, where I am now and just the joy that I have now in the Lord is not something I've had my whole life. And it's something that's taken time to get to, that I really had to trust in God and follow in God to get to where I am now. And I just really want to take you through that journey of how God has changed my life and how God has affected my life and just really pulled me out of a dark time and just a time where I felt lost and alone, where I just felt that there was nobody around except, God. So I'd like to just share and take you back through that. I grew up in a Christian home. Both parents were Christian. We went to church on a regular basis. But when I was about 6 years old, my parents got divorced. And as a young kid, at least for me, I didn't really know how to respond to that. It felt normal. It felt like this is what life is. I didn't really know any different. So I had four older brothers and a younger sister, and we went and moved in with my mom and lived with my mom, and she did the best she could to really raise us right and raise us with just a godly heart of love. And I remember as a small kid, I loved the Lord. I loved Jesus. I loved talking about Jesus. When I was in fifth grade, so about 10 years old, one of my best friends, I led to Jesus and I led to the Lord, and I took him to the prayer. I remember we were standing there at recess, and I was just so excited, and he was really nervous, and I just sat. We just went up to the wall and we prayed together and accepted Jesus. And I remember feeling just so alive about that and so excited about that, just getting to share that with other people. And as I kind of got older and I started into high school, we decided to move down to Temecula, California. And a couple months into it, I remember just being at this place where I'm at a new school and I'm in a new place and I don't really know too many people, and just kind of being upset that I have to leave my old friends and being upset that it's not what I wanted. But I trusted in my mom. My mom, she told me it was going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. And I knew that I could trust her. And everything was going well for a while. But a couple months into it, I remember the night. My mom was reading a story to my sister, just a bedtime story, and just in a room in there. And I remember just hearing a scream. And I remember running into the room and just seeing my mom collapsed on the floor. And her heart had just given out at that point. And she was without oxygen for about 15 minutes to her brain until she was resuscitated. And so it caused a lot of brain damage, and she fell into a coma. And I remember at this point just feeling so alone and so lost and so unsure of, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening right now? She was a wonderful mother. Why did she have to just slip into this? And I remember as a young 14-year-old kid standing in the hospital room where my mom's unconscious and the doctor's there standing talking to us, telling us that she's not going to make it out. That chances are there's just been too much damage, that she's not going to be brought back, and that we have to start saying our goodbyes and accept the truth. And I just remember feeling so helpless and so lost, that wanting to be able to do something, but I couldn't. It was like I was trying to hold on to my life. I was trying to hold on to just what I knew to be true and what I knew to be my life, and it was just slipping out of my fingers like sand. And I was trying to grasp things, but there was nothing I could hold on to. And it was almost as if I had just lost everything I knew. And I remember just during that time, just being so alone all the time. It's at this point that I started to contemplate suicide. I started to think that maybe if I just ended my life, all this pain would go away. Maybe if I just ended my life, that these stresses, this anger, these emotions, they would just go away and it would cease and it would stop, and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. I wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. I wouldn't have to feel so alone. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I remember calling up my dad who lived up in Washington, and just telling him, like, I can't take it anymore. Can I live with you? And so I left, and I went and lived with my dad. And it was a couple months after that that my mom woke up out of the coma. And she woke up with a bit of brain damage, and it was the type of thing where if you'd walk into the room and say hello, she would remember you. But if you left the room and came back, she didn't remember that you were there just a few minutes before. And I remember just thinking, it was almost as if I was able to grab hold of something again. As everything was slipping through my fingers and everything was leaving me, I was able to grab hold of something again. And it gave me a little bit of hope back. Maybe I can hope again. Maybe I can hope again. And the doctors then again said, it was a miracle that she woke up, but she'll never recover. Her brain will never recover. And over the next couple years, she started to just miraculously recover, and memory started to come back, and she never got to 100%. She never got to fully who she was before. But God completely did a miracle in bringing back so much that the doctors said was impossible. And I remember as this was happening, just this hope was being restored, and this joy was being restored. It was almost like I can live again. Because that everything that fell out of my hands, I was starting to be able to grab hold again, and it was coming back to me. And, so through high school, I drifted further away from God because of this pain and all this, and I drifted further and further away from God, but I didn't notice it. I just got so far into doing what I wanted to because of these hurts that I got into drinking and drugs and partying, and really my life became about just partying and football, and that's really all I cared about. And I had no interest in getting to know who God was. I had no interest in going to church. I had no interest in kind of any of that stuff. And when I graduated high school, I just wanted to leave my home. I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to start over. I wanted to leave everything behind and everything that attached me to those hurts and those pains, and I just wanted to start fresh. So I moved down to Los Angeles, California to go to college there. And when I got to LA, it was like a whole new world opened up. The people there, it was because coming from a small town, it was just so different and so just new and adventurous, and I wanted to try anything and everything, and I wanted to get involved with everything, and I just wanted to have fun and then just enjoy this experience. It was everything I hoped for and more. And so I ended up getting further and further into the party scene. 18 years old, I had a fake ID, so I would go out into the clubs and the bars and just pretend like I was an older guy, and I would just do everything my flesh desired, everything I wanted to do. Just my motto for life was, we only have tonight, so let's just make as much fun of tonight as we can. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about the future, because that doesn't matter. Because I didn't want to think about what's next. I didn't want to actually look at my life and analyze what I was doing and really care about myself, because I didn't care about myself. I just wanted to have fun and fill the void that I felt. And then when I was 19 years old, I remember my mom went into the hospital again. And for about 6 months, she was in and out of the hospital. Her heart started to fail again, and it caused other body functions to fail. And in November of 2009, was her last time in the hospital, and she passed away. I remember at that point just feeling so emotionally drained already, mentally drained, at a point where I couldn't take any more tragedy, that I didn't know how to deal with it, and so I just pretended like nothing happened. I didn't cry. I didn't mourn. I didn't take time. I didn't even change anything. I just continued on. I remember going from the hospital to my brother's house and being like, all right, let's smoke, let's drink, let's party, let's enjoy our lives. My response to this was just keep doing what I was doing, but much harder. And so consciously, I didn't really want to think about it or deal with it. And so I just continued the party life. I continued the drug life. The drugs became harder. And for a couple months, I just fell so deep into it, and I got so lost into it because it was the only thing that gave gratification. It was the only thing that gave me just joy at that point, because everything else was just falling apart. I had my life just starting to bring back together again. I was starting to get a hold of things, and then the rug just pulled out from under my feet, and everything just crumbled. And I was left there with just empty hands. And it was so much that I didn't even want to look down at what I had lost. I didn't even want to acknowledge it. I just wanted to keep on just distracting myself with the parties and the girls and the drugs. I wanted to keep on just filling that void even more, and even more. But something happened to my spirit. Something happened to me in my subconscious that I didn't plan on. I just really started to get this pull towards the question, does God exist? Is God real? Is there life after death? Because I just faced the mortality of life by losing my mother. And now I had to face the question, is there life after death? And I couldn't shake it. I couldn't get it out of my head. And I needed to know. At this point, I didn't have any Christian friends. I wasn't involved in any kind of church. I didn't even really know who God was. I was on my own in Los Angeles and just surrounded by atheists and people who had other thinkings and New Age thinkings and in other religions, and my roots were in Christianity, and I wanted to know if it was real what my mom taught me when I was younger. And so I had an old Bible just packed away with my stuff, and I pulled it out and I said, all right, if you're real, God, if you're really real, and heaven is real, and life after death is real, if this is all real, all that stuff that I learned is real, then I will be able to find you in this book. By me reading this book, by me seeking after you in this, and through prayer, you will answer me. You will come and show me in some way that you're real. And so I just started reading. I got in my mind to just read about Jesus, to read through the whole New Testament over and over again, and just to really see what it says for myself. And so that's what I did. I was still going to college at the time, so I had one of those small New Testament Bibles I would keep in my pocket at all times. It was always on me. And in between classes, at lunch, just any break time that I had, I would just pull it open and I would just start reading. I would read and read and read and read and read because I wanted to know. I needed to know. And then at home, when I was home, I would go out onto my balcony and just sit outside. And I remember there was a couple trees just right outside of my balcony, and I would just sit there and I would read my Bible and I would start to pray and just ask questions to God. And the craziest thing happened is He answered me. Not in audible words or not like I thought He would or wanted Him to, but in my spirit, I felt Him. I felt a presence of peace, a presence of joy. And at this point, I was still partying. I was still going out and drinking and all that kind of stuff. And after a couple months of this, what I noticed that my favorite time in the day was when I was in the Word and praying. I felt most comfortable, most at peace, most joyful. That's how He communicated to me. That's how He spoke to me, by bringing this peace to me as I was in His presence. And I didn't even realize I was in His presence. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that my favorite time in the day was when I was in the Word and praying. So what happened was, I remember the day. It was April 17th. I went to a friend's house for a party. We were all getting high. We're sitting around just enjoying ourselves. And I remember as the night went on, people just get tired and lethargic and everybody's just laying around. And I'm sitting there in a chair, just out of my mind, and I'm looking around, and all of a sudden it just hits me. This just feeling just hits me, and I'm like, what am I doing with myself? What am I doing here? Why? There's a bunch of people I didn't know. And I was just completely out of my mind. And all of a sudden, I had a moment of clarity of how I was wasting my life. And I remember I started to have a panic attack, and I got up and I went outside on the balcony, and I just had to get some air, and I started praying, and I'm like, God, help me, please. I don't want to feel like this anymore. God, I know that you're real. I know that you're out there, and I need your help. Please, please, please help me. And then I went home, and the next morning I wake up as usual, and I go into my kitchen. It was my day off, and I was going to light up and smoke. And as I'm sitting there just getting myself ready, I'm looking down, and I just get this question of, does God want you to do that? Just right in the back of my head. And I'm thinking, what? I'm like, why would God care? Why does God care if I smoke weed? What does that have to do with me following him or praying to him or reading my Bible? Like, why would that matter? And so I just kind of shake it off, and I just continue, and and all of a sudden again, does God want you to do that? And then I start thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know. Does he? I'm like, God, do you? So I ask him, like, God, do you want me to do that? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to stop this? Like, what do you care about this? I mean, do you care? And then another question came in that just struck me, and it was, would you be willing to give this up to know God more? It wasn't this condemnation of what you're doing is wrong or it's evil or it's sinful, you need to stop that right now. No, it was just this subtle, soft, calming, peaceful, would you give it up to know him more? And I started thinking about my favorite time of the day was being in his presence. I started thinking about how much peace just over these past couple months of just reading the Bible and praying has brought me. And I wanted more of that. I thought, if this can go deeper, if there can be, I thought this is all it was, but if this can go deeper, I want that. And I remember it was a struggle, because as soon as I thought that, it was like this other voice came in and would be like, you can't do that. You can't do that. If you do that, your friends aren't going to be with you. Your friends aren't going to, this is what you do with your friends. They're going to want to leave you. They're going to, call you out on this. And you're going to be alone if you do this. You're going to be alone in this. And so I really started just feeling this fear of stepping out in this way, that God was asking me to do it. Just this huge fear. And again, that voice came in. Would you be willing to give this up to know God more? And then it struck me, and I was like, yeah, I have to. I need to. I don't want anything else. And he's like, then speak it out. And I remember sitting there just so afraid, because I knew the moment I spoke it out, I would have to hold myself to it. Because I didn't want to make a promise to this God and then just go right and break it. Because if this God's an all-powerful, creating God, I don't want to go making promises to him that I'm going to break. And so I knew in my heart that if I speak this out, I would have to hold myself to it. And so I just sat there afraid, and I finally got the words out. I said, God, I'm done with this. I'm done with this, and I want to know you more. And then the craziest thing happened. God actually helped me through it. I remember a couple days later, I had gone to a party, and I was there because I knew that if I'm really going to give this up, I have to be able to stand in it and face it and say no to it. And so I was at this party, and everybody's asking me, hey, you want to smoke? Hey, you want to smoke? And I was like, no, I'm good. And they're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I was like, is that easy? It's really that easy? Like, just to give it up like that? I thought it was going to be this hard thing. I thought they were going to give me a hard time for it. But God really, really helped me through it and brought me through it. And it was that decision to quit smoking weed that I didn't realize was such a big decision. I didn't realize that was, to me, that would make such a big impact. But because I did that, it took away that barrier between me and God that I was placing above God, that was more important to my life than God. And it allowed me and opened me up and gave me the time to get to know God further. After this, I ended up moving back home to Washington and got involved in a church and just really started to try to get myself involved with other Christians, in any way that I could. And I remember God just started progressing my life further and further and further. I started up my own business, and I just really started to radically change my entire life. Everything started to just get better and brighter. And I remember, again, God God asked me something. And I remember I was at home and I was praying and I was like, God, how can I further this? What else do you want me to do? What more do you want me to do? And at that time, I had a lot of friends back home that were into the party scene, and I remember coming back. I couldn't hang out with them, and because I couldn't be involved in that again. I just couldn't be involved in that anymore. And they took it personal, and it kind of hurt them, and they felt like I, in some way, had abandoned them. But that's not what it was at all. But I remember God had them on his heart, and he told me, I want you to start a Bible study, and I want you to invite all your friends. And I was like, what? They're not going to come? Are you kidding me? Why would they want to come to this? Why would they care? And I remember just thinking, like, no, that's I can't do that. I can't do that. Nobody's going to show up. Nobody's going to show up. And he's like, just do it. Just invite. It's like, nobody shows up, but just invite them. And so I was like, all right. And so I invited all my friends, and I set a date, and they were even like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. And I was still like, nobody's going to come, And then the night came, and everybody showed up, and we were all there. And I was just, what do I do now? And so we just kind of prayed together and read the Word together, and I wanted to turn it into a regular thing. And every week they kept coming back. And every week we just grew together more and more in the Word and more with God. And I saw a shift in their lives, and they turned away from the party scene. We were all going to church together, and just everybody's lives was radically changed by what Jesus wanted to do. And it was all because, I was willing, and I said okay to what he was asking of me. Yeah, I was scared and I was afraid, and there was always doubts of what this, what that, what this. But ultimately, when we say yes to him, what he's asking us to do, when we say yes to cut something out of our life, when we say yes to go out to others and to share what we know and how Jesus changed our life, that's when transformation happens. That's when the miracles happen. And I got to be a part of that with my friends, which is I still am so glad of today. And from that point, God just kept stirring in my heart more and more and more, and increasing my faith more and more and more, because just by stepping out in faith, we grow our faith. And I remember at this point I wanted something more, because I was still struggling back and forth. It wasn't just like an easy road for me from then on. I fell back into drinking and drugs here and there, and then I'd feel convicted, I'd feel condemned, and I'd go back and forth of trying to straddle the line of both lives. On one end, I had my old self who wanted to party and have fun, and the other end I had this desire to follow God, and they were at war with each other. And they were both pulling me in two different directions, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I remember many times just feeling so lost and unsure of what I was doing, if following God was really the right thing. And I'd be like, God, are you? And I'd even question again, like, God, are you real? Or are you really leading me? Is this all real? Is this what's happening? And God he just kept stirring in my heart. And as I just kept pursuing him, he opened more doorways. And I remember when all of a sudden just this thought of missions got placed on my heart and on my mind. I didn't know what missions was. I didn't know any missionaries. I didn't have any missionary friends. I'd never even met a missionary. But it was just placed on my heart and placed on my mind. And I knew that I had to somehow get involved. And by just speaking to different people, I remember it was my brother that mentioned, hey, you should try this thing called YWAM. A buddy of mine did it, and he ended up going to Jordan and doing some work there. And so I Googled it, and I checked it out. I didn't really, even after that, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, okay, God, I'm going to do it. And so I signed up, and I got accepted, and the short of it is I went off to Australia and did my DTS, or Discipleship Training School. And I went on outreach to a mission trip up in Papua New Guinea. And that whole story was just so radically changing. That whole experience with YWAM and with the Papua New Guinea was just life-changing, and really brought me into a much deeper relationship with God. And then after that, I did the SBS with YWAM here in Kona, or the School of Biblical Studies here in Kona. And that really got me into the Word. and I studied all 66 books of the Bible inductively, and just going through over 9 months every single book, and it really just laid that foundation. Such a strong foundation where I feel like I really, really know God now, and I really, really know how to walk forward now. And where I am now, I'm so glad. I'm so well pleased that I'm here right now, just getting to follow God and be a part of His journey and His plan for my life. And I look back at really the starting point, and it was really the death of my mother. What seemed like in the moment as my life falling apart, as everything going out of control, as me losing everything, that's when God came in and really pulled me to Him and really comforted me. Because, yeah, I look at her death as a tragedy. Of course, I miss her, and it's saddening. But at the same time, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know the Lord the way that I do. I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be seeking after Him. I know that she is with our Father in heaven. I know that. And I know that it pleases her more for me to be here seeking the Lord as I am, and her to be there. I know that she is pleased with the way that my life has turned out in seeking after the Lord in the way that I am. But it all started with that. God took this tragedy, this hurt, this sadness, this brokenness. He took all that and He turned it around and turned it into something amazing. He redeemed it. He restored it. And now I get to be a walking testimony of just how great and powerful the healing power of Jesus is. Of just how He can take us when we're lost and alone and broken and shattered and just wanting to just end it all. And how just by the simple calling of Him just slowly bringing us in with this love and this peace, that He can take us to a completely another level of healing all that and then wanting to share that. And it all began with that. And from there, it was from that point on, after God kind of drew me in, it was then me saying yes to His call, whatever it was. And just as I'm sharing this now, and as you're listening to this and watching this, I just want to encourage you that if you're going through something right now where it feels like everything's falling out of your hands, everything's slipping through your fingers, the life is just falling apart and crumbling, and the rug's being pulled out from under your feet, if you're going through that right now, and if you're feeling that, hope and trust in God, because I am a testament and a testimony to the fact that God will bring you through it and He will redeem it all, and we can trust in Him. If you're going through that right now and you don't know Jesus like I was, when my mom first died, and I was going through all this, and I didn't know Jesus, I didn't know God, I wasn't a Christian at that time, I wasn't following after Him, I was alone. If you're at that point right now, seek after God. Let Him show you that He's real. Let Him show you that He's good. Just seek after it with everything, like your life depends on it. If you really, really want to know if it's all true, if you really, really want to know if it's all real, seek after Him. He'll reveal Himself to you. He really will. And so I just want to thank you for allowing me to share my testimony, to share how God has radically changed my life, and I'm at a point now where not everything's easy. This Christian life isn't easy. This Christian life isn't just a bunch of joy and nonstop happiness, and there's no hard times. Hard times are going to come. But when you know God, when you know the Creator, when you know that He has His hand on your life, when that stuff comes, those hard times come, there's a peace, because you know that His safety and His calling is on your life, that His arms are around you. And you know that you can be secure in that, and you know that you can trust Him. And when everything is falling apart and everything's falling away around you and that life is out of whack, He will stay strong, and He will be the one thing that you can hold on to. That's the reason I follow God now, is because while everything else in my life has fallen apart and left me and disappointed me and let me down in some way, God has never, ever abandoned me through it all. He was the only thing that was there through it all. So just thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about who I am or just how God has really changed my life, you can throw in some comments or questions. We'll have my email down there. You can email me. Just any way, anything that comes to your mind that you want to know more about, feel free to contact me and just let me know. So thank you very much, and God bless.